So I want to welcome you to an all-new episode of Laid-Back History from the floor of the Military History Museum. You're probably wondering, why am I sitting on the floor? Honestly, it's because the object that I want to talk about was sitting over here on the floor for the moment, and I didn't feel like moving it. Today, I was going to do a different episode today, but I was reading something this morning that kind of caught my eye. And Ford has announced that starting in 2024, that definitely with their electric automobiles, and probably at least with their truck line, they're going to start producing them without AM radios. So no AM radio receiver. And it's kind of struck because, I know we're kind of used to FM radio, especially, my age group and younger, that's what we listen to. Very rarely would you have turned on AM radio. For me, I would do it. I don't even know if it's still there, to listen to ESPN radio. Several years ago, it was on AM like 970, I think it was. And so that's the only reason I will turn it on. And every once in a while, I'll turn it on if I'm traveling. Sometimes it's easier to find something on AM than it is to scan through the FM radios. But I just thought it was interesting they were going to do away with it, because AM radio was, that was the rage. I mean, that was the big thing. That was the first, your first radios. I guess there's some evidence it might go all the way back to 1906, but definitely 1912. And then there's actually a car manufacturer. The first time you see them in cars is actually in Australia. And then, they eventually make their way over here by, the mid 1920s and by the early 1930s, pretty much every car has an AM radio. And that stays, your major radio until later on, when FM comes in. And since I'm not an engineer and I don't totally understand the difference between amplitude modulation and frequency modulation, what I'm going to do is just put something on the screen right now as I continue talking that explains the difference between those two things. But when I was reading that this morning, I started thinking about this radio that I had, at the Historical Society that was donated several years ago by the Griffith family. It was donated by Clinton Griffith in 2006. And it is a Zenith portable radio, the Super Trans-Oceanic Model H500 radio. And it's a really interesting radio. Here's an ad from Zenith. You can't see. Yeah, is it in there? Yeah, it's in there. There's an ad from Zenith. I'll give you an eye, and I'll show you what it looks like here in a minute. But here's what the ad said. This is the ad I found. If you had a friend who was a king, what kind of gift would you give him? Well, there are many prominent people who have been thrilled to receive this. That was how they had it. The ad from Zenith Radio, that was Zenith Trans-Oceanic Radios in 1950s. And that was the thing. These are transoceanic. So, today, when we want to get news, we go to the internet, even turning on TV, and we can get news immediately. When you go back, let's just think of, something, huge to me, 9/11. I woke up in the morning, I was in school and at college, and I walked out in the living room, turned on the TV to watch the news for a few minutes, and saw it unfolding live. Now we can go to the internet and we get things immediately. My phone beeps all the time and pops up and says, hey, this is happening. Trump's been indicted, whatever it may be. We get that immediately. That's not the case back in the 1940s, 50s, 60s. That's not the case. So imagine during World War I or during Korea or Vietnam, you're not getting information immediately. And if you have loved ones that are over there, there's a delay. And how, you're waiting for a written letter or for something to come across the news, at night on the radio or on television. And it's not immediate. So I can imagine how hard that would have been. For us now, it would be incredibly hard since we're used to, on demand, at the moment. But imagine you have somebody over there and you want to know what's going on. And that's what these radios, allowed to happen. These radios became famous by soldiers carrying them into war, during World War II, and Korean War. They actually carried these into war, and they could get news, like they could get signal and stuff from the United States. And so it was a connection to them, to their homes. But in the same way, the people that were here at home, it was the same thing, because they were able to get news of what was going on a lot sooner rather than just sitting around and waiting. And so I just thought, this was kind of neat. FM radios today, they don't go that far. I mean, think about when you're driving with an FM radio, you get so far away from the home signal and it's gone. Where my dad talked about when he was in boot camp, that he was down in South Carolina and he could pick up Pirates baseball on his radio because of the way that it was transmitted. The signal wasn't as clear, but it was stronger. And so, he could pick up and listen to Pirate games, and he had that connection to home. So the radio that we have, let me turn here, is this one right here. So this is our Zenith, the one that was donated by the Griffith family. It has, the never-ending, where's the antenna? Never-ending antenna, which, you know what? I don't know if I want to pull it up. There it goes. There. It goes all the way. I mean, it's a heck of an antenna, right? So it's like early cell phones, the big antenna that they had on them. But you tune it in. You have all the different wavelengths that you're looking for that you can tune in. The knob for that is actually missing. I just realized that. Sorry. It's backlit, which was really cool. It actually had a backlight on it. But you could tune it also. This was one of the first ones that actually had tuning for bass, so you could adjust it for voice if you want a clearer voice. It also had presets, so depending on what preset you had, you could adjust it, push here, and it would move here. It would move your signal, and so it was pretty advanced. And then it had, if you look here, this was your list of stations that you could get. So it had the Atlantic Coast area. I mean, you kind of go through, and it gives you all the different frequencies that you can tune into. Let me pull that back down. You can start to tune into the United States Great Lakes weather forecast. It's just got all this that you can, you have your radio listing, your station listing. So you can see where you're at. I mean, St. Petersburg, Florida. Here's Tampa, Florida, New Orleans, Miami, Florida. So just, it's kind of neat to me to see like all these things and how this, Australia, it's giving you signals for Australia, Angola. So you can really you can keep updated on everything that was happening. And I just find that, I thought it was very interesting and kind of hit me today, when I read that article about the AM radios going away in the cars. So I just found it to kind of, I don't know, hit home and made me start thinking about it. So I thought, well, let's do a real quick episode on the Zenith radio. And I have a video here with a signal of one of these actually playing. So we're going to play that now. We'll just kind of leave you with that. And I hope that you will join me in 2 weeks for, I always, when I do that, I always think of Chuck Woolery. You guys remember, what was that? The dating game. We'll be back in two, showing off his awesome gold watch every time he did it. But at any rate, so thanks for joining me, and we will see you in 2 weeks for an all new episode of Laid Back History.